You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Today, Amber and Scott discuss Despicable Me 4. Always nice to discuss a life of crime, right? No, we don't care about that. We just want our own army of minions. I mean, who doesn't? And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
You find yourself in the unique position. What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
What would you do?
How do you want to handle this?
What would you do? Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Oh, yes, Minions, so much fun.
I have always loved the Minions. Like, I don't know. There's something about them. It's maybe the same thing. There used to be a franchise, or I mean, maybe there still is, the Raging Rabbids. It was a video game series, and the Rabbids were almost like white Minions in a way, a little more vicious, but they were kind of funny. They had that nonsensical talking that they.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've always liked that type of character for some reason. So, yeah, I'm a fan of the Minions.
So if you haven't already guessed, we are talking this episode about Despicable Me 4. Gru faces a new nemesis in Maxine Lamal and his femme fatale girlfriend Valentina, and the family is forced to go on the run.
So just to be clear, it is Maxime.
Yes, with an
not
M.
Maxine.
I said Maxime.
I know, but I had to see it written out. I'm like, why is that dude named Maxine?
Yes.
Because that's not really a men's name.
Oh.
No, I know no men named Maxine. Maxime, well, I now know one. But in fairness, one person total, male or female.
Well, and that's unless you're spending time in France. You know, that kind of explains why maybe you only need one.
Yeah, but a lot of the people who make that movie do spend a lot of time in France.
Yeah, definitely. The production folks very heavily in France. So this film is basically about Gru and his 3 daughters and brand new baby and his wife realizing that they have to go into hiding at a safe house because Gru, who captured and incarcerated Maxine has escaped and now he wants revenge.
I thought the cockroaches when I lived in South Georgia were bad. Holy crap.
Yes, Maxime apparently is a human-sized cockroach and can call other cockroaches to be his army of evildoers.
Yeah, that was definitely.
He had on a big coat,
disgusting.
kind of like a wrapper, and then he took it off, and then you saw that he had the cockroach legs and the cockroach wings. That was a lovely surprise. But the course of the film follows Gru and his family trying to assimilate into their new identities in a new town and keep safe in their safe house. So what would you do if you were in a situation like that?
Hang on. I want to back it up a little bit here.
Okay.
Always, and again, always spoilers. So I like to start with the thing they opened up with. The fact that Gru's off to his high school reunion.
Yes.
And this one's interesting for me because I, too, will be going to my 30th high school reunion here in 3 months-ish. And that is always an interesting thing when you know you're going to see people you've not seen in a very long time. And while I think the concept of a high school reunion is more outdated today than it used to be because of things like Facebook, like it's a lot easier for random classmates and stuff to stay in touch.
Yeah.
I still think it is a good thing to have, to actually be able to hang out with some of those people from your past. But in the same respect, like everyone wants to be the one who looks good and looks successful. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like I remember before my tenure, I went on a diet to lose weight before the reunion.
As does every single person, male and female, before their big high school reunions.
Yeah, and I never do that. And I thought it was interesting because I felt like at my 10-year reunion, I was one of the most successful people in the room. And at my 20-year, I was one of the least successful people in the room. And it is a hell of a marker of time to be like, where were you at this point and this point and this point? So
Yeah, because you have also people who peak in high school and don't do much with their life, and then people who are really dorky and unpopular in high school and are freaking crushing it in the world in their adult lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, it's always interesting when it deals with the high school reunions or reunions like of any kind, just trying to how much stress it can cause us no matter where we are. I mean, like I said, my 20 year, I was probably near my least successful, but I mean, I still went. You just, don't necessarily talk
Hopefully
professional
people
stuff as
remember
much.
the you from 10 years ago.
What?
Hopefully people remember the you from 10 years ago, and then they were like, oh yeah, we already know he's doing well. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because at 10 years, like the people who did really well still had to go through school. Like they had to get like doctorates and stuff like that. So they hadn't really had a chance to become really successful. And then once you added 10 years though, then they just blew right past me.
And that was part of the catalyst with Maxine not only getting arrested at his high school reunion, but making him look bad in front of his classmates.
Oh, yeah.
And that also fueled the revenge that was the foundation for the rest of the film.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 40-year reunion, but I mean, there were things even from high school and then obviously the things that happened at the reunion that made him just blinded with rage
Maxine.
and wanting revenge because these are the people he grew up with. These people were still important to him in some respect because
And he had just won an award as most successful classmate. I can't remember what it was, but he won an award.
Yeah.
He was accepting it, and that's when everyone came in and roped him and carted him off.
yeah, if I'm Maxime, I'm looking for revenge.
Yeah, and he was. He was definitely looking for revenge and ultimately found, grew in his family, and chaos ensued.
Yeah, so what Gru became, was it Chet Cunningham?
Chet Cunningham. Yeah, so if I were relocated into a safe house and with a new identity, I would like to think that I would have some input as to what my new occupation would be because Gru's wife was assigned a new job as a hairstylist.
Which she seems excited about, at least at the time.
Yeah, until she basically burns off somebody's hair and starts a fire and burns down the salon.
And then Gru was a solar panel salesman.
Yeah, I think he nailed that, is just passing out his card saying, do you need solar panels?
Yeah, but it was interesting. So just as an FYI, Amber and I basically have a rule that we don't talk about what we're going to talk about on the show until the actual show happens.
Until the live and record button goes on.
So we made
That's been fun because you've blindsided me with a couple of things.
Yes, I have. But this one, I wanted to do an exercise that I felt needed a little bit of prep. And we were like, okay, if we both had to go into hiding and we could choose our names, what would we choose for our names? And before this show, she and I both wrote down each other's names. And then we swapped them. So in front of me, I have Amber's name, and I've not looked at it. And she has my name, and I've not looked at it. So just as a fun experiment here, we wanted to do what would you do with names? We're going to look at names.
This is a live reveal, folks. Live reveal.
So I'm going to start with yours. And we did it this way so that nobody could change what they were after they said it. So I'm going to read Amber's out loud, and then Amber is going to read mine out loud. And then we're going to discuss why. But just as a rule, this is basically like witness protection like rules. So like you couldn't use like a family name, like somebody who was related to you, or like somebody's maiden name, or like you needed to do something that was really you could be used to go incognito with to a point.
So in other words, listeners, if you meet someone with this name, do not out us. It is us, and we've been stuck in witness protection. So please do not say, oh my gosh, I know who you are. You're Scott or you're Amber, because then you're pretty much signing our death warrants. So be kind.
Yes, Gabriella Andiamo.
That's me.
Gabriella Andiamo.
Yes.
That is very exotic.
Yeah, initially when you said to write down a name, I wanted to come up with something really boring and mundane to just blend in and not be particularly noteworthy. But I thought I'd have fun if I could create an alter ego here.
Well, it looks like one of us had that thought and stuck with it. So please reveal
Let's
my
see.
name, and then we'll
Okay.
discuss
And the Emmy goes to
our logic.
William Carson.
William Carson.
Wow. Okay, William Carson. That actually is a really good name if you're going into witness protection, and you're just William Carson.
Okay, so let's start with first names here.
Okay,
Gabriella. Why Gabriella?
that was potentially going to be one of the names my mom was considering when I was born.
Okay, but
She was afraid people would call me Gabby, and she didn't like that, so she didn't go with that because she was afraid she would always consider a nickname that people might use.
Fair enough. I knew a Gabriella in college who went by Gabby, and
Did she go by Gabby, or did people call her Gabby? Sometimes nicknames get assigned and people just call you the shortened version of them, even though you prefer the longer version.
I never heard anyone really call her Gabriella, at least in college.
Because people get lazy sometimes and they change people's names without asking their permission. Like Roxanne might become Roxy, or sometimes people just don't have control. And my mom knew that, and that's why she didn't want to give me that name, because not that I would go by Gabby, but she thought people would call me Gabby because a couple extra syllables is super hard.
So I was going to go first name, last name, but I think I have some insight into your last name. So we're going to go with your last name first before I do mine.
Okay.
And there's a reason why. Why Andiamo? That is an interesting last name.
Yeah, so in Italian, that means let's go. And that was actually the last name of a Chihuahua I had,
Yep.
because I give my dog's last name.
Vinny Andiamo.
Vinny Andiamo, let's go.
I saw that.
And the song is Vinny Andiamo, Vinny Andiamo, Vinny Andiamo, let's go.
Interesting.
Don't steal that song.
Themes.
Patent pending.
Her dog has a theme song. I like it.
Yeah.
So mine, William, I was sort of going along the same lines if you thought about it, because what is a shortened name for William?
Bill.
Billy.
Billy.
Billy's one of I love Billy. He was one of our dogs, and he passed away about don't make me think about that. Like 7 months ago. Actually, I believe 7 months ago to the day.
Yeah, today.
Yeah, Billy. But I figure you go William. I mean, that's going to be far enough away. And plus it's a normal enough name.
Yeah.
No one's going to question it. Carson is very interesting because, and I'm going to give you a little insight as to who I am as a person.
Uh-oh. This is going to be a bumpy ride.
Well, it's funny because this goes into computer security.
Okay.
As you know, you should not use like your pets' names and things.
Don't use password as your
something
password.
associated with you when you're making passwords. You want to do something that is random. So I probably shouldn't discuss my password habits,
Probably not a good idea.
but at one point in my life, I had passwords I would use all the time, and I would change it periodically. It's a little easier not to do that now that we have password apps and stuff like that. But so I used to, whenever I wanted to change it, I was like, I need to look around and find something random that's just I'm going to be like, that's it right there. That's what the catalyst is going to be for my password. Something that might be around, but something that's not associated with me. So I couldn't come up with a good last name. I couldn't. I was thinking about this, and we were walking in, actually, I believe we were walking into Fly Me to the Moon to see that one. That episode will come out here in a bit. But I remember seeing the words on some ad that said Care Son, Careson.
Careson.
I don't remember what it was. And they might not have been consecutive, maybe one on top of another or something like that. But I saw those two words and I thought, Carson.
Okay.
So it was completely random.
That feels like a scene out of a movie, because usually when people have to think of an alias on the spot, they look at the cereal box and the can of peas, and then they're
Well, it's a good way of doing an alias because
Libby Kellogg.
you don't want anything that can tie back to you. So that's why I went with, again, William, very boring name. Carson, not Jones or Smith, but not exotic, like easy enough to...
Yeah. I thought of it, but I thought, given the opportunity to come up with a new name, I wanted to have a little flair. But if it was legit, I would have a very common name.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too common. I also wanted something specifically that people could easily spell.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, because you and I both really have to spell our last names, because Well, okay. Well, no one pronounces your last name correctly. No one spells my last name correctly. That's for sure. Yeah, it's always like, what's your last name? Gerhard, D as in dog, T, because they'll always miss the damn D. So I wanted something easy. Carson. You say Carson, everyone knows how to spell Carson.
Most people. I'm sure there's someone out there who wants to spell it S-E-N.
And if you do, just, I don't know, go away. Just go away. But yes. So that's our What Would You Do Alias edition. What else did we have here that was...
It really was just about that new identity and life on the run, but on the run in a small town. What
would you do if you were a once famous criminal that gets blackmailed by a teenager?
Yeah. The neighbor girl knew who he really was and held that over him, so she would go on a secret trip.
See, when she said that she wanted to pull a heist, I'm not gonna lie, I immediately thought she's gonna rob her dad. She's got some daddy issues. She wants to rob her dad, who apparently they owned a car dealership, so had some money. I thought they're gonna extort her dad, but no, we want to go to your alma mater.
Yeah, the high school where he'd had the reunion.
And steal their mascot, which is an effing honey badger.
Yeah, that definitely led to some antics.
Honey badger don't care.
So it makes you realize that when someone has something on you, that they can make you do stuff. So the gal knew who Gru really was, and Gru had to comply with her little scheme so he didn't get found out and outed and killed or confronted by Maxime. So when someone has leverage over you, boy, that is never a good situation to be in.
No, especially not when it's a teenager.
Yes.
Because
with a lisp.
They're baseline evil. Like anyone in the 13 to 17 category is baseline evil. And you just don't want those people having leverage over you. I mean, and again, I could say this. From 13 to 17, I was pretty much baseline evil.
She was a likable villain.
Well, yeah,
Poppy.
eventually.
Poppy. Her name was Poppy. How much of a villain can she be?
Yeah, Poppy was a little brat at first, but we grew to like Poppy.
We grew to like Poppy?
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release at least 1 and generally 2 to 3 episodes a week, so we have new content regularly. Until next time.